Hey, you. You're finally awake.
The PlayStation 1. The birthplace of some of the greatest fighting games of all time. Tekken, Street Fighter Alpha, Bloody Roar. Hold on. What about the Forgotten Warriors? The Misfit Brawlers? The games that made you question reality itself? Today, we're going in the pits of the PlayStation's forgotten fighting games and the ones you may never have played. Buckle up because this is of course going to be a wild ride. Now, as well being on YouTube, Retro Wars is also a weekly podcast where we look into the old games we used to play when we were kids, and hopefully I can see you from wherever you get your podcasts from. Let's get into it, shall we? 7 PlayStation 1 fighting games you may have missed. Armed Fighter. First up is Armed Fighter, and let me tell you, when they say armed, I mean armed. I'm talking about giant cannons, missile launchers, and swords so big they make Cloud's Buster Sword look like a butter knife, which is ridiculous because Cloud's Buster Sword is absolutely insane. I want one. If someone wants to buy me one, I'd appreciate that. The game takes place in a dystopian future where warriors battle for, I don't know, something, I don't care. Honestly, the plot is more confusing than assembled IKEA furniture. Do you know it's meant to be pronounced IKEA? I never knew that for years, sorry, side note. Some say it's about revenge, others claim it's about a secret weapon, and one guy in the manual insists it's all about an underground fight club run by sentient machines. Whatever the case, all you need to know that people with way too many weapons are trying to fight each other. The combat system is a mix of traditional 2D and absolute madness. You've got projectile spam, screen-filling explosions, and special moves feel like they should belong in a kaiju movie. Imagine being punched, but instead of a fist, it's a high-powered railgun that instantly vaporizes half the screen. Balanced? Pfft, no. Hilarious? Well, of course. It's like Marvel vs. Capcom 2. The best part is the characters. You've got a cyborg samurai with an energy katana, a dude who looks like an angry refrigerator with legs, a scientist whose special move is literally chucking toxic waste at people. There's even a secret character that's just a giant walking turret with a jetpack. Armed Fighter doesn't just throw the rulebook out the window, it shreds with a chainsaw while laughing its head off. The sound design is just pure chaos, with every attack sounding like someone detonated a fireworks factory, and the music is an adrenaline-fueled mix of metal guitar riffs and techno beats that make you feel like you're in a futuristic war zone, which is pretty cool. It's like someone said, what if we made a fighting game, but also made it the finale of every action movie ever made? And honestly, I respect that. Talking about things that just like techno, Boombots. Ever wondered what would happen if they made a fighting game out of a fever dream including Lego, Saturday morning cartoons, and way too much sugar? Well, congratulations, that's exactly what Boombots is. The game features robotic fighters ranging from a kung fu monkey to what I can only describe as a budget Power Ranger Megazord, all duking out in 3D arenas. The story... something about an evil robot overlord forcing them into fighting bizarre intergalactic tournaments, but let's be real, you're not here for that, you're just here for the antics. The combat is fast, erratic, and full of questionable design choices. Projectiles fly in random directions, so it's kinda like Street Fighter Rainbow Edition. Characters zip around the screen like they're on a sugar rush, and there's no such thing as normal physics in this game. 1 second you're throwing a punch, and the next you're launching it into orbit because an explosion sent you flying. The voice acting is absolutely legendary. It's like someone locked a bunch of over-enthusiastic teenagers in a recording booth and told them to just go nuts. The end result is a game that feels like a fever dream that somehow made it onto store shelves. Is it a good fighting game now? Kinda debatable. Is it fun? Yeah, it's fun. Just don't expect to understand what the hell's going on at any given moment. There's something endearing about Boombots. It's one of those it's so bad, it's so good kind of way. So kinda like snakes on a plane. The game doesn't take itself too seriously for a single second, and that's probably its biggest strength. It's a video game equivalent of watching an over-the-top cartoon where physics don't exist, and explosions just solve the problem. And really, isn't that what we all want sometimes? Pocket Fighter. Okay, I wasn't going to go down the Street Fighter well, but not necessarily everyone has heard of this game. It's an actual good game. Like if you thought, man, I wish Street Fighter was just 1000% cuter, well, congratulations, you're in luck. The game takes classic Capcom characters and shrinks them down to their most adorable forms. They're so cute you want to give them a little cuddle. It's like playing a high energy anime chibi brawl where everyone is permanently stuck in maximum adorable mode. But don't let those cute visuals fool you. The game is packed with depth, smooth combat, and some of the most hilarious transformations you'll ever see. Mid-fight costumes? Yes, in the middle of battle your fighter may suddenly don a cat costume, a police uniform, or even full medieval armor. Why? Who gives a shit? It's awesome. Special moves? Well, of course it's insanely over the top. Combos? Silky smooth. And the energy? Absolutely unmatched. If you love fighting games, but also want to feel like you're watching a hyperactive Saturday morning cartoon, this game is for you. The game thrives on unpredictability. 1 minute you're throwing fireballs, the next you're bashing someone with a giant fish. Every match feels like a high-speed anime skit, and honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. And in one stage, you've got Bison in the snow, having fun, and who else doesn't want to see that? Next is Biofreaks. Like, if you thought Mortal Kombat was a little bit too lame, let me introduce you to Biofreaks, a game that asks, what if our fighters had chainsaw for arms, jetpacks for movements, and absolutely no regard for human decency? Set in a post-apocalyptic future where corporations rule the world, because, of course they do. Biofreaks throws you into an arena with genetically enhanced monstrosities, all of whom are equipped with more weapons than a small country. This isn't just a fighting game, it's an all-out war disguised as one. Forget combos, this game is just about mayhem. You can shoot opponents mid-air, chop off their limbs, yeah, really, and use jetpacks to fly around like a cybernetic lunatic. It's like someone said at Midway at the time, what if we just add chainsaws to this and make it more metal? The gore level? Well, it's off the chart. The game makes Mortal Kombat look like a friendly handshake. Heads explode, limbs get hacked off, and there's enough blood on the screen to make a horror movie director blush. Let's talk about the AI, because this game is straight up brutal. The computer opponents will fly circles around you, spamming projectiles, dodging attacks, and generally make you feel like an unworthy meat sack. Seriously, if you can beat this game on the hardest difficulty, you must have superhuman reflexes. The roster is another highlight, or nightmare, depending how you feel about grotesque cyber mutants. You've got guys with rocket launchers for arms, a dude who looks like a malfunctioning Terminator, and let's not forget a fighter whose head is literally a TV screen. Biofreaks wasn't here to be pretty, it was here to make you question your sanity. Now before there was Soul Calibur, there was Soul Edge, the original weapon-based fighter that laid the groundwork for one of the greatest fighting game franchises of all time. Think it like the rebellious older sibling, the one that still wore the leather jacket and scared the neighbours. And a lot of you might not even know that Soul Calibur did come from Soul Edge, or Soul Blade if you're in Europe. Unlike traditional hand-to-hand fighters, Soul Edge was all about deadly blades, massive axes, and ancient weapons of war. The game was a breath of fresh air at the time because most fighting games had you throwing punches and kicks. Here, if you mistimed a block, you weren't just eating a jab, you were getting your entire face slashed off. Not literally, your face didn't get slashed off. Another standout feature? Well, Soul Edge had a dynamic combat system where weapons could actually take damage and break mid-battle, and if you weren't careful, you could find yourself fighting bare empty-handed. Good luck winning against a guy with a 6-foot sword when all you've got is your bare fists. The game even had an RPG-style story mode, where you can unlock new weapons and upgrade your fighter, a concept that fighting games today still struggle to get right. It gave every battle a sense of purpose beyond just win the round. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. The censorship. The PlayStation 1 version toned things down significantly. Blood effects were reduced, certain character outfits were just modestly adjusted, and that iconic opening scene? Well, some of the most intense moments were either softened or outright removed. You could thank the 90s moral panic for that one. Sophia had a scene removed in the Western version, the version I had, because she was kinda naked. Li Long had his nunchucks removed for a 3-part staff. Remember the whole Michelangelo debacle? Yep, did you ever see kids running around with nunchucks? No! I never saw kids running around with nunchucks. I didn't even know where you could get nunchucks from. And also, as I mentioned at the beginning, the game was changed to Soul Blade because apparently Soul Edge was too edgy. And the final boss-ish was Cervantes, a ghostly pirate wielding 2 swords because one just wasn't enough. This guy was about as terrifying as he was unfair, and if you made it to him, congratulations, you're about to get destroyed. But then you'll realise those 2 swords aren't 2, they're just made for the user, and that's actually the Soul Edge. Yeah, I know my lore, shut up, and then you've still got one more person to fight. I know, played this game to bits. Soul Edge is revolutionary. It was fast, fluid, and had a level of cinematic presentation that was ahead of its time. It may not be well remembered as Soul Calibur, it should, but it was the first step on what would be one of the greatest franchises ever made. It is also one of the best opening songs ever. Oh my god, just play the opening cinematic for that song. Cardinal Sin. Now, Soul Edge was a medieval fantasy with class. Cardinal Sin was a medieval fantasy with pure chaos. The game throws you into a blood-drenched battlefield where knights, demons, and warlords fight to the death in some of the grungiest, darkest environments ever seen on the PS1. Although you could put that to Biofreaks, you really could. One of Cardinal Sin's best selling points? Interactive environments. You weren't just fighting on a flat stage, you were dodging hazards, setting off traps, and using the arena as itself. Think Mortal Kombat, but with a lot more medieval torture devices. The violence in this game was turned up to 11. You weren't just KOing opponents, you were cutting them down in brutal fashion. It made other fighting games feel like a playground slap fights. The roster? Utter madness. You had knights, warlocks, demonic entities, and fighters so edgy they could cut glass just by standing there. And don't even get me started on the boss characters, because some of these guys look like they crawled straight out of a heavy metal album cover, which is pretty good. On top of that, Cardinal Sin mixed in some light RPG elements, letting you unlock new characters and abilities as you progressed. It gave the game a bit more depth, even if the combat itself was about as subtle as a warhammer to the face. And finally, ooh, you know what when fighting games really need? A game called Fist. That's it. No fancy title, just Fist. No over explanation, just a game where you punch people in the fist. Hard. And you know what? It kinda works. Fist was a wild mix of 2D and 3D elements, featuring anime-style characters with ridiculously fast combos. This is the kind of game where one wrong move could get you juggled into the stratosphere. Blink and you'd miss half the match. It has frantic speed, like someone shoved a traditional fighter into a blender and cranked it up to max speed. The combat was flashy, and the special moves were explosive, and the character designs were pure 90s anime ridiculousness. And let's talk about the power moves. Every character had these absurd, over-the-top power attacks that felt something out of a Dragon Ball Z episode. You weren't just punching someone, you were launching them into space, dropping meteors on them, or setting off energy blasts bigger than the screen. Despite its obscurity, Fist was a surprisingly fun and chaotic fighter that deserved more love. Sure, it wasn't the most balanced game out there, but if you wanted pure, unfiltered fighting madness, this game delivered. And that wraps up the list. Have you played any of these forgotten PS1 fighters? Did we miss any of your favourite obscure brawlers? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more gaming deep dives. I'll see you again in 2 days for another list. Until then, my name's been Danny. Take care. Bye bye.